Hi friends, today I want to share something a little bit different. I had started this painting a few months ago and I was really excited about the idea of this little mouse looking up at these magical flowers surrounded by a starry night sky. I started with the background and I loved how it turned out. I masked everything off with masking fluid so that I could freely add the wet and wet washes for the sky using several shades of blue. However, once I removed the masking fluid, I realized some gaps were there, and I ended up with dark blue on the white paper where the flowers were. So I experimented by adding some watercolor ground to the paper on the flowers, which is like a semi-opaque gesso, and then I painted the flowers, and even though the watercolors behave differently over the surface, I really liked the effect. So anyway, I kept going, painting on the whole painting with watercolor and gouache until it was time to paint the little mouse. Well, that's my long-winded intro to talk about how oddly vulnerable I can feel about reaching the final stage of a painting. Sometimes everything is coming together and working out, and suddenly finishing it feels terrifying. That's exactly where I was with this piece, and I'm guessing you can relate to this feeling. I think that this is one of the most common experiences artists have, especially when you love it so far and are afraid to ruin it. I really think part of the fear comes from the fact that once we add a focal subject, the painting changes permanently. There's no more safe possibility. We move from imagining what it could become to actually committing to it. But paintings almost always require that moment of courage, especially with watercolors where it feels like there's no going back once you've put that paint to paper. The truth is, sometimes art gets kind of awkward before it's complete. And that's completely normal, even when you have a lot of experience as an artist. So for this video, I decided to accept the discomfort and finally finish this painting. I'm filming it and committing to posting the video no matter how it turns out. And you will have to watch until the very end to see how it turns out. Hey, I gotta play the YouTube game and entice you to keep watching the whole video. Anyway, one thing that helps me when I'm nervous to continue is to remember that you can take your time, you can pause, and you can add layers of other media to alleviate any watercolor mistakes. I decided early for this painting that it would be a mixed media piece, so knowing that I could layer gouache and colored pencil on top of the watercolor layers removed some of that pressure. So thinking this way makes the process feel much less intimidating. Anyway, as far as how I'm approaching painting this mouse, I started with a wet and wet wash of burnt sienna and ultramarine. Once dry, I also deepened the shadow areas like the underside of the body, around the ears, and some small areas around the face to create dimension. I'm also trying to preserve soft transitions wherever possible. That softness is part of what gives watercolor that dreamy, atmospheric feeling. As a super quick side note, I have an e-guide of the top 10 essential watercolor techniques for beginners, so if you're interested, then please click the link in the description or go to createwithaura.com to get your copy. Okay, back to the mouse. I use that same colors of burnt sienna and ultramarine, very watered down, to paint the fur. The first layer is completely dry before I do this. And I try not to make it too detailed, but I still ended up overworking it a little bit. I softened some of these marks later by lifting a bit of that dried watercolor and then also layering with colored pencil. I'm going to pause on the mouse for now. I'll finish it later. Right now, I'm adding some more detail to the flowers and the leaves, mostly deepening shadows and adding some highlights with colored pencil. And I'll show you some of this footage more sped up. So I want to talk some more about fear and perfectionism. I think fear in painting often comes from wanting to protect what already feels successful. I mean, after all, you don't want to go from that feeling of accomplishment to just beating yourself up because you ruined something. But sometimes we become so careful that we stop letting the painting evolve. And ironically, that's often what keeps a piece unfinished. Something I try to remind myself is a finished, imperfect painting teaches you more than a safe, unfinished one, because every painting is part of the learning process. And honestly, some of my favorite paintings only came together because I pushed through that awkward middle stage or discovered a new way to fix a mistake. On this painting in particular, I never would have used watercolor ground to cover the blue paint if I hadn't messed up with the masking fluid in the first place. And then, because of that, I discovered an interesting new effect I can achieve with watercolors. To be completely honest, I have a few more paintings besides this one that need to be completed. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a future video of me finishing these as well. So my encouragement to you, if you have a painting sitting unfinished because you're afraid of ruining it, just keep going and be brave. Remember that most paintings are not going to be masterpieces, so just take that pressure off of yourself. And as promised, here is the completed painting with the little mouse. It didn't turn out perfectly, but I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. I think he's just so cute, and I'm really glad I decided to finish this, and now I can just stop worrying about it and being afraid and know that it is done. If you enjoyed this video and would like to learn more about watercolor painting, I'd love for you to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Click to watch this next video about tips for drawing from your imagination, and don't forget about that watercolor e-guide that I mentioned earlier on my website. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.